Good morning, everyone. Let's talk about stock trading ideas in the stock market. We're going to use technical analysis to find where to make the money. All right, let's get right into it. I'm going to start out with the broad market analysis, triple Qs. All right, this is tech sector, obviously. Now, we have a sell signal that we basically just initiated. That sell signal, I've kind of got my trend lines, but basically we had a sell signal right there, big gap down right there, and that was your initial sell signal. I shorted that thing just briefly above, but we gapped down. We hit our first level of support, and I know my charts are kind of messy. That's how you get when it's in battlegrounds mode, which is kind of where we're at. But there's your support. So that's where I flipped long, and I talked about it in the previous videos how I was looking for a rally back into a gap fill and then a continuation of the downward move. So again, I think we've started a downtrend. I think we're going to roll over down to about 354 next as on our next leg lower, and that's where we're looking for this thing to go. Yesterday we were rallying. We rallied right back into that gap fill, which sits about 372.70. We overshot it briefly, but you can see towards the end of the day we closed basically right on it. Here's the hourly chart kind of showing that. You can see the pop right above the gap fill, chopping around, and then sold off into the close, closing basically right at that resistance level. Today, gap down, and we're just below resistance again. So not looking, that looks like that was the high of that counter trend rally, and I believe we've started the next move down. Whether that takes place today into the close or next week, I'm not so sure. But again, I'm looking for a move down to about 354, and that's going to be a drop of about 4.5%. Again, that's going to burn the dip buyers if that does take place. The dip buyers stepped in on that dip like they have the last 6-7 times. And if we start to sell off impulsively, they're going to start to take on some losses. So that likely will increase the selling as we proceed to the downside. So I think that rally, that was the point that I talked about in the multiple videos leading up to today. How I was looking for a gap fill and an area to reshort it, and that's exactly what I've done. Reshorted this triple Qs pretty heavily. I am looking for that move to the downside. SPY, here on SPY, you can see we are, let me get rid of this, we are back below the 50-day moving average on the daily chart, so that's sitting right there at 443.01 or 442.97 actually, and we are basically just slightly below that, not by a whole lot, but just briefly below that. And so I think that's going to be resistance now. I don't think the 50 is support. I think it's resistance. Again, kind of the difference that I'm seeing on this most recent sell-off. First off, we gap way below the 50. You can see all the last 6 times. The green line right here is your 50-day moving average, that little squiggly green line. And all the times we hit it, we barely were below it, and they recovered it really quickly. You can see this time we gapped way down, and it took multiple days just for a rally into that 50-day. Whereas before, it was like one day, and we were right back above it. This was multiple day rally into the 50, and I think that's going to hold up as resistance. Looking for the next leg lower. At a minimum, down to 429.44. But I also got this level right here. You can see it's sitting at about 425.62. That was former resistance here, and then it was support there. So I think that might be the target right there, 425.44. We'll kind of circle that one out right there. All right, so that's where I think things are going. Why do I think we're going to get another leg lower? Well, we've got big negative divergences that have been building for quite some time on the SPY, on the triple Qs, and those divergences are telling us that we're likely going to start a downtrend, right? So that's what I think we've actually started, and it's not obvious to everyone here on the rally. The dip buyers think that, oh, okay, this is just another dip by the dip, but when if it sells off, this is where it's going to be obvious, and this is where they're going to want to start to sell or short, which is really not the best opportunity. The objective area to short, was basically yesterday and today, basically. But right here, this is the objective area to short. This is down here. This is where you want to take your profit and cover. But again, that's not usually how the public does it. Typically, they want to sell down at the lows and buy at the highs, basically. All right, so that's what I think is going to happen. Again, I obviously could be wrong. Nothing's, we have to manage our trades. So if we're wrong, we just, exit small and lose small and look for the next trade. Okay, quick update on gold. Looking at the charts here on gold bullion, I'm looking at the weekly chart here. So this is kind of bigger picture stuff. But the point that I'm trying to make is on the weekly, you can see this uptrend line that I have right here, where we're clearly in an uptrend, a longer time frame uptrend on gold. Obviously, we're making higher highs and higher lows, but since August of 2020, we've been in correction mode. Again, on this channel, I sold all my miners back here. I talked about how I was selling them, looked like it was time for a correction, and we got a good long correction. I started buying the miners back right down here when gold was right there, basically on March 29th. Started buying those miners back in that time frame. And we've really kind of drifted sideways, but to me it looks like bigger picture, we're going to start the next like higher in gold. And really what I want to point out, I want to focus in on this level right there at 17, it's about 1756.50. And I want to point out the fact that that's held as support. We had one brief undercut, but it's basically held as support for quite a while. So you can see here, we held as support. This one level right here, this is where we dipped below it, put in that bullish divergence, started building bullish divergence down here, and then we ripped up right back above it and recovered it. And you can see we held support here on the weekly chart. This was an intra-week big smash down right here, where it basically crashed all the way down to that level of 1682, but throughout the week, by the end of the week, the buyers had stepped in and we recovered right back above that key level, again, holding support. And look at where we're at right now. So even though gold's been kind of selling off, you can see on the weekly chart, we're right there. Not too much, we're slightly below that level, but we still have the rest of the day. So let's see how the day closes. I suspect we're going to close the week, basically right in this area or slightly above probably. And again, I think that's just an indication that we are building support. We have a base of support and we're likely going to start the next leg higher. So again, you want to buy at support. You don't want to buy when something's just exploding to the upside, like way up here like that. You can see what happens. If you buy here, you get a big correction that wipes you out. You want to buy at support after you've had a good long correction. That's the most highest or lowest risk area to be going long on something is at support. And again, the bullish divergence you'll see here on the weekly. Again, we have positive momentum moving up on the PPO. We've got it here on the RSI. My chart's gotten a little scrambled, but there it is. Bullish divergence. This big dip down here was the last divergent low, and we are continuing to hold that bullish divergence while holding that kind of key support. So as the miners continue to kind of grind lower, they're setting up, to me, it still looks like an area to be buying and accumulating for the next leg higher. Again, by the time when the market turns, that's going to be not exactly the opportunity to be loading up on big positions. So as far as I can tell, we'll see if I'm right on that one, but gold still looks like it wants to hold up and continue the bigger picture bull market trend. So we'll see. Okay, Nike, let's talk about this one. So this is a short trade idea that I pointed out back here on August 31st. I have it circled. That was your sell signal. This is where I got short this thing. And it's pretty much been all down since. A couple little intraday rally, or kind of counter trend rallies. You can see here they rallied it up on pretty thin volume, just kind of gapped it up. And then today, just a big smash down, gap down and selling off. Anybody who's bought this thing long, pretty much through this entire time frame now, is underwater if they're still in it. And so again, looking good. I'm still looking for the targets of, here's my target. First target, 146.20. Second target is all the way down here at 134.91. So looking to kind of take some profit down there at that 146 area. And we're really close. So if the market wants to roll over today, I suspect Nike will get down there and we'll probably cover that trade, looking for a more sustainable bounce as we, again, it's been a good trade so far. So I think it makes sense to start to cover and take some profit at the first target. And if you took the trade here at the initial sell signal, then you're profitable on this one right now by about 9.5%. It was about 10% today so far. And down at the target's about 11.5%. So far it's a good trade, and we're looking for opportunities to start to take profit on this one. Okay, net. I'm back short this thing. I covered it yesterday, back short. So took on a little loss yesterday, but we're back short. This one's kind of playing games a little bit. So on net, you've got this uptrend line here on the daily chart right there. We've been walking up the trend. Started to break. So there's the initial break right there. And then they recovered the trend line. Let me kind of mark that out. So there's your break. We break. That's your sell signal. Then it recovers. Then it breaks again. So we're basically chopping around, kind of washing out everybody. So we have another break and looking good now. I do think if the general market starts to sell off, this should hold as a sell signal. Targets on this one, well, first target is down here at 95.05. Second target is there at 87.07, and then final target would be 62.02. Okay, that's a good size drop, but again, this is a momentum name, so that when they drop, they can easily drop 50%, and that would be about 52% to that final target. Why do I like it to the downside? Well, you can see the negative divergence has been building for a while. PPO, you see how the momentum's just moving lower on the PPO and the RSI right there. Let me go ahead and get rid of that one. But there's your negative divergence while prices have continued to grind higher. We're looking for a break of the trend line support, starting to get it, and that's this chop zone that I'm talking about right there. So I think if we can get just a little more downside, then I think we'll have a pretty firm sell signal. Looking at the hourly chart, you can see kind of creating this little tiny bit of a trend right in here. Let's kind of tighten it up right there. Yeah, it's right about there. So, if you want to just hone that in and wait for an hourly break of this little minor uptrend right here, then that might be your final sell signal before you get that, before we start the downtrend. All right, so I like this one, even though it's been playing games with us. And KHC, haven't covered this one in a couple days. You can see we're just kind of holding this support zone, which is right there at 36.08. So again, we had that little breakdown right here of that support zone. If I roll out, you can see this was the gap level back here in 2019. Big gap down, and we gap right down to that support zone. Ever since then, that has been resistance. Right there was a resistance. Then we had a big impulsive breakout, and you can see that's a breakout. That's what you want to see. Nice big impulsive green candles. Came back in for a back test, held support, ran up, and we've come back in on a correction all the way back down to that support level. So again, I like to buy at support. And again, look at that big break candle right there. Break above, we dip below it, break above, and we're still above it. This one looks good to me. Looks like we're going to start to do that. It's not going to happen all at once. We're going to just uptrend with pullbacks along the way. Final target on this one still remains a gap fill. Could even go beyond that, but about 48 bucks is the final target right now. And that's a move of about 30. It's about 30% to the upside. Why do I like this one long? And why do I like it, to start to trend up? It's been trending down clearly. Why do I think it's about to trend up? Well, we have bullish divergence. There it is on the RSI. You can see we basically have just been building bullish, and here it is on the PPO right there. If I zoom in, you'll see we have kind of, we drifted lower, kept going lower here, but the momentum started to turn up on the RSI and the PPO, telling me that we're likely going to start a trend reversal. And then you get the big break candle right there, and then we've just been holding. I think we're going to get another break and start to uptrend. Okay, so I like that one long. Still looks good, and staying long. Okay, last one here, CAR. Potential short setup. Not an actionable trade, but a potential short setup. So basically, here's what we have going on. We've got this ramp happening over the last 3 days. Looks like it wants to run up and do a back test of this downtrend line, right, or this upward trend line. This is coming off your March 2020 lows. You can see this is the lows, and then we held support. Finally, held support a couple days. Finally broke, but we haven't had any full back tests. So you can see here the seller stepped in early before we got a full back test there, stepped in early here, and we had, so maybe this wants to go up a little bit higher, do that full back test. We'll want to look for the divergences to remain intact. So you see here we have negative divergence right now. See how we're just trending down, and this is a divergent high, meaning we have a new higher high in price but a lower high in momentum. So I think if we go up a little bit more, hit the back test, we're going to keep those divergences intact, and then we'll start to roll over. So the objective area to short this thing would be on the full back test, which is up right now about 318.30 or so, so another $8. So again, it's just on watch for me. This thing can go up another 5% or so, just on watch, but I'm gonna keep an eye on it to see if it can get that full back test, and then likely take a starter position short for a move to the downside. We'll need to keep an eye on the broader markets, obviously, so those are important. These individual trade ideas have a higher probability of being successful if you have the broader markets trading in your direction as well. So that's very important. Guys, leave me a thumbs up on your way out. Check out the Stock Market Technical Analysis course, link in the description below, and I will catch you